Hi folks, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and today we're taking a look at Spelljammer Academy Part 3. So this is the third part of the Spelljammer Academy series, and it's free on D&D Beyond, and it's also free to join D&D Beyond. So you have nothing to lose just checking it out. Now, obviously on D&D Beyond, you can buy things if you want, but you don't have to get Spelljammer Academy. So, Spelljammer Academy, Realmspace Sortie. So it starts off, this is the third installment of the adventure. I should mention there will be some spoilers. I won't give everything away, but just be aware. If you're going to play in this, stop watching the video now. Maybe let your DM take a look at it. So very nice cover here. Very much, nice comic book style art. And of course, they give you an introduction. So if you've played the first two parts of Spelljammer Academy, your characters are now at level 3. So it says they recommend 3 to 7 third level characters. And they give you some advice if you want to use the Adventurers League, and just give you some background on the adventure that you're going to go on here. So let's get right into things. So in this adventure, you're going to be given an assignment to retrieve a meteorite, a very precious adamantine from Hachatha, if I'm saying that right, which is a distant disc-shaped world. But the problem with that world is it's a world inhabited by beholders. So now that's not in this adventure. That's the fourth one, I assume. So you can see, here's a picture of what's called the Tyrant Ship, which is what the beholders use to travel around in. So the characters are roused from their slumber, and they're given this assignment that they're going to retrieve this piece of meteorite. And it struck the spire on Hachatha, says their advisor. And the way to get there, or the way to sneak in, is with this Tyrant Ship. Now, one thing they don't explain, why do they have a Tyrant Ship? Was this captured? Was this found abandoned? But apparently there's this Tyrant Ship floating above the world of Toril, and they're going to ferry them up, and they're going to install a spelljamming helm and take off. So they give you some information on the Tyrant Ship, and here's the map of the different levels of the Tyrant Ship, which is done by Dyson's Logo, if you know his work. I'm not sure about this holodeck. I can't quite picture that in my mind. But I guess there's access shafts, and something's going on that deck there. Maybe there's a little bit of a corridor here, or a central area. It's hard for me to tell. But here's the map. And Petty Officer Winston Ryback is actually there with you. He's the cook. Met him in part 2. And there's some equipment that they get to bring with them. And the first order of business is to install the spelljamming helm, which is kind of like the control chair or the control throne. And the characters have to do this. And it gives them a chance to maybe do a little problem solving. How will you get it up to where it's supposed to go? Because what's interesting about this ship is because it's a beholder ship, there's no stairs. They can levitate. So really all they have are these access shafts, sort of like an elevator shaft. So it would be a matter of, how do you get a heavy throne up an elevator shaft? And it gives the characters and the PCs a chance to do a little bit of problem solving that does not involve combat. Obviously, they can use any magic that they have. And there are 3 other cadets who come with them. There's Myken Haverstance, who we met in part 2. And once they get to the command deck, it turns out that this ship isn't as safe as you might think. There was a trap there. It's called the spin cycle trap. And it causes the ship to spin rapidly, end over end, it says, for 1 minute. And of course, this is a problem, because if you fail a save, you could fall and take 2d6 damage and be knocked prone. But there's also some things, and are detailed here rather nicely. The author does try to anticipate, well, what might the characters do? They might brace themselves. They might try to deactivate the trap. Now, they really only have a 1 in 10 chance of doing this. Or if they can do a DC 20 intelligence check. That seems a little high to me, that 20. I might lower that myself. But if they can succeed at that, And if they have a good intelligence, maybe a +3 or something, or a +5, that greatly increases their chances of being able to figure out how to stop the ship. And there's some thoughts about could they use the Featherfall spell. They can't detail every spell. And here's a couple of the other NPCs who are going to be on board, other cadets. One is a Thrycreen, and she's a carpenter, and the Thrycreens are kind of like the insectoid race, the Vrusk from Old Star Frontiers. And then the Fred is, I love his name, it's spelled funny, Pffred, is a plasmoid. They used to be the Dralicites. They're kind of like an ooze race, or I think of them more like an amoeba race. And then hopefully they can wrap all that up. And if there's no spelljammers or no spellcasters, Mike and Haverstance volunteers, because I guess he's an apprentice wizard, to serve as basically the ship's captain. And they don't give you a lot of the rules for how does it fly here. I'm sure that that's coming in the Spelljammer box set, which you can certainly purchase if you're interested. But for the purpose of this adventure, you don't need it. You just say the ship gets where it needs to go. Now, they get a little bit of time because it says that they're millions of miles away on their way to the next planet, or the disk world. And then they hear noise on another deck. And this is actually some good design here, I think, because they might have got, especially if they got really beat up in that spin cycle, so that the next encounter doesn't happen right away. And so they have to go down to the middle deck, the hollow deck, and there they're going to find 3 Clockwork horrors who are methodically salvaging pieces and parts from dead auto gnomes. Now, they don't explain how they got here, and the Clockwork horrors are speaking Thrycreen to each other rather than a beholder language. I don't know if that's to make you, maybe the characters have some suspicion of the Thrycreen character who's with them. That might be the purpose. Although to me it doesn't make a lot of sense because, why wouldn't the beholders have it speaking a beholder language or common? Now, if they take care of this encounter, they're going to find the auto gnome. Now, before I talk about that, these Clockwork horrors are really, really strong. They have like 60 hit points each. So that's 180 hit points if you're going to take them all the way down to kill them or, to deactivate them. So, which really, this encounter seems really unbalanced for a 3rd level party. Now, I want to just say right off the bat, I'm not an expert in the 5th edition challenge rating system. I'm just not. And from what I understand, it might be a little broken anyway. So I could be wrong. Maybe 3 Clockwork horrors is fine. But like I said, 180 hit points, that seems an awful lot to me to take care of, split among the, 60, split among the 3 characters. So if you're running this with a small group, maybe only like 3 characters, maybe you want to reduce this. Why not make it just 1 Clockwork horror? Make it just a little bit easier or a little bit less deadly. Now, if you have a lot of magic users and they have higher level spells, or you're playing this with higher level characters, certainly you can do what you want. But this was one area where it seems like, didn't anybody catch this? Why? It seems a little bit too harsh to me, but again, I could be wrong there. And there's this auto gnome survivor, which are kind of like the robots of Spelljammer. His name is Whizpop, kind of a silly name, but I guess that's the whimsy that they're trying to get with the Spelljammer here. And you can try to repair him to get him back up to speed. And I imagine also, too, then you could use him for future encounters. Once he's all together, he could be a fighter or something. And then we get to the 3rd part of the adventure here. And I don't know if this is one of the Clockwork. I guess this is one of the Clockwork horrors here that they're trying to show you. Looks pretty deadly to me. Where there's a fire in the galley. So they have to go down and try to put out the fire, and they give some rules for smoke inhalation. But when they get down there, they find there's a little bit of a problem. This is probably not a galley fire. There's these magna mephits who attack them. Now, they're a little bit lower on the challenge rating than they're only 22 hit points each. So they're probably a lot more manageable for a 3rd level party. Although, depending on the timing of this, if your party is really down from that 2nd Clockwork horror encounter, you may want to wait on this one. Maybe wait a few days to do this, so that they're not totally obliterated. Because this is still going to be challenging for them, I think, even at 3rd level. And Petty Officer Ryback, unfortunately, he's dead there. He succumbs to smoke inhalation. It seems a shame because they just introduced him in part 2. And, then they're killing him all of a sudden. So certainly a DM could consider, why not leave him alive or give the characters a chance to save him? I think that, that would certainly be heroic to have a chance to run into the fire and try and drag him out. And then they find when they investigate all this that the fire is probably too big to have been like a stove fire, that something else was afoot here. And they're going to have to figure out and see what was the cause of the fire. It was probably a magical spell. And they're going to have to question the NPCs. And then they get a confession from one of the NPCs who did it. And they have to decide what to do with him. So do they turn back or do they press on? What do they do with the saboteur? And what do they do with the body of Petty Officer Ryback? Do they decide to contact their people back at the academy to tell them about what happens? So there are some nice choices here at the very end. And then they give you the statistics. So there's the Apprentice Wizard. There's that Clockwork Horror. 18 armor class and 60 hit points each. And they've got that rotating saw blade. A few attacks here. And then they give you some stats for Ryback is the gift character. And they give you the Magnum Effort. Now this is very nice too, I thought, at the end. They give you an appendix for Realmspace. So basically they're giving you a little map, and they give you some information on some worlds. So Toril is the main world where the Forgotten Realms is, but they give you some other planets here to investigate. And then here's Hecatha, Garden, and they're unique. They're not just like Mars and Venus, perhaps, or Rocky Worlds. They're all a little bit neat. Like the Beholder's world of Hecatha, that's kind of a Discworld, if anybody's familiar with Terry Pratchett's Discworld books, which I think is great. That's a nice nod, and it's a nice little map here. And they give you a little bit of information on who might live there. So, you could certainly use this as a nice building block. If you're going to do Spelljammer adventures, you certainly have, and you're going to start out in the Forgotten Realms, you certainly have enough space here and places that they can go explore and have adventure. And then they give you a player handout of the Tyrant ship map. And then we get into the credits. So that's part 3. I hope you enjoyed the look at it here. Go check it out for yourself, and we'll see you next time. And if you'd like to check out the titles from Sharp Mountain Games, you can see our 2 in-print adventures, The Dwarven Pickup Truck and The Sky Tree, at Amazon, Lulu, or drivethrurpg. You can also check out our digital titles, which include adventures, map packs, new character classes, and character cards, and they're at drivethrurpg or the Roll20 Marketplace. Wherever you like to shop, odds are that we're there. So you know what to do. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All the links to our products are in the description below. And thanks, and we hope to see you again soon.